Veronica Hill's blood was still warm on the frozen asphalt when Damien Cross kicked her one last time. "Should have stayed invisible, Omega," he snarled. "No one will miss you." The 23-year-old Omega lay motionless on the moonlit forest road, her skull fractured against the pavement, ribs shattered. Damien, Marcus, and two other enforcers stood over her crumpled body, their breath forming clouds in the midnight air. Behind them, the full moon hung like a witness. "Is she?" Marcus's voice wavered. Damien checked her pulse. "Weak, barely there." He smiled. "Let the cold finish her. By morning she'll be another rogue attack statistic." He turned to his pack. "No one knows she's out here. No pack will answer an Omega's call." They climbed into Damien's black SUV and drove away, taillights disappearing into the Pacific Northwest darkness. Veronica's phone lay crushed beneath Damien's heel, screen shattered into crystalline fragments. Temperature dropping to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. The silver poisoning from their clawed weapons was already suppressing her werewolf healing. In 90 minutes, hypothermia and blood loss would claim her. But Damien Cross didn't know one thing. The outcast had been watching and they remembered everything. 12:52 a.m. Veronica's eyes fluttered open to a sky full of stars she couldn't quite focus on. Pain came in waves, each one threatening to drag her under. Her right side screamed with each shallow breath. Broken ribs. Definitely. Maybe fractured spine. She tried to move her left arm. Nothing. Tried her legs. Her body refused to obey. The cold was worse than the pain. She'd lived in these mountains her entire life. She knew hypothermia. Knew the stages. Knew what came next for werewolves poisoned by silver. Their supernatural healing shut down, leaving them as vulnerable as humans. More vulnerable even because their bodies burned hotter, lost heat faster. Her fingers were already numb. That was stage 1. Violent shivering would come next, then confusion, then the deadly warmth that made victims strip off their clothes right before death. She'd seen it happen to a young wolf rejected by his pack, left to freeze after a challenge gone wrong. She'd found him too late. Not like this. Not after everything. Veronica forced herself to think clearly, to assess the damage through the fog of silver-induced agony. Her phone. Where was her phone? She turned her head, ignoring the stabbing pain that suggested spinal damage, and saw it. 3 feet away. Crushed. Screen dark. Dead or destroyed, it didn't matter. 3 feet might as well be 3 miles. She couldn't move. Couldn't even drag herself an inch without the broken rib shifting deeper, threatening to puncture something vital. The road was empty. This old forest route saw maybe 1 car a week, always during daylight. At night, never. Her sanctuary cabin was 2 miles north through dense woods. She'd been walking back from her supply run in the human town when Damien's SUV had cut her off at the bend. The beating had lasted maybe 4 minutes. Felt like hours. The nearest pack territory was 15 miles south, and no pack would answer an Omega's distress call. That was the unwritten law. Omegas were expendable. Invisible. Worthless. Veronica tried anyway. "Help." Her voice came out as a whisper, lost in the wind rustling through ancient pines. "Someone, please." Nothing. Just the vast indifference of the forest. No, not indifference. The forest is never indifferent. He tried to calculate. Normal werewolf body temperature ran at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Hotter than humans, faster metabolism. But the silver in her system had shut down her healing factor completely. She was shivering now, violent tremors she couldn't control. That meant she'd already dropped to around 98 degrees. For a werewolf, that was critical. Stage 2 hypothermia began at 95 degrees. Stage 3, the deadly stage, started at 90 degrees. Medical journals she'd studied said werewolves lost heat faster than humans when their healing was compromised. Maybe 1.5 degrees every 30 minutes in freezing conditions. She was wearing just black jeans and a thin leather jacket. The frozen asphalt beneath her was stealing her heat even faster than the air. 75 minutes. Maybe 90 if I'm lucky. After that, her heart would simply stop. Veronica tried to pull herself toward the road center, anywhere more visible. Her arms shook with effort. She managed to move 4 inches before the pain in her ribs made her gasp and stop. Blood trickled from her hairline, warm against the freezing air, dripping onto frost-covered asphalt. Every movement made it worse. The broken rib was shifting, pressing deeper. If it punctured her lung completely, she'd drown in her own blood long before hypothermia claimed her. Stay still. Conserve energy. But staying still meant freezing faster. Veronica wanted to cry but couldn't waste the moisture. Couldn't waste the heat. Her mind drifted to the faces she'd saved over the years. 47 broken alphas, each one cast out by their packs for being defective. Too compassionate. Too questioning. Too dangerous. Kai Thornwood with his scarred face and haunted eyes. Maya Chin who'd refused to execute a child. River Blackstone who'd challenged an alpha's abuse. All of them living in her sanctuary now, protected, healing. Would they even know I'm gone? No one would miss her until her supply run was overdue, 3 days from now. By then she'd be a frozen corpse, another cautionary tale about Omegas who stepped out of line. I'm going to die here, she whispered to the stars. Alone. Just like they always said I would. The cold was making her drowsy. That was bad. That meant her body was shutting down, redirecting blood from her extremities to protect vital organs. The silver poisoning was accelerating everything. Soon she wouldn't be able to stay awake. Once she fell asleep, she wouldn't wake up. Stay awake. Stay awake. Stay awake. Veronica bit her lip hard enough to taste blood. The pain helped, but only for a moment. Then she heard it. A sound that made her remaining hope crumble into dust. Or transform into something else entirely. Footsteps. Multiple footsteps moving through the underbrush with purpose and coordination. Not human. Too silent. Too many. From the tree line, 47 pairs of golden eyes opened in the darkness, and every single one of them was locked on Veronica. Veronica's heart hammered against her broken ribs. Alphas. Not 1 or 2. 47. A gathering that defied every pack law in existence. They materialized from the shadows, moving with the deadly grace of apex predators. Their eyes reflected the moonlight, gold and silver and amber, creating a constellation of predatory focus. She knew the rules. Had studied pack dynamics her entire life. Don't make sudden movements. Don't challenge their authority. Don't show fear. But she was bleeding. The scent of Omega blood hung in the freezing air like a beacon. Blood meant weakness. Blood meant prey. Blood meant an Omega who'd overstepped, who deserved whatever came next. The lead wolf stepped closer. Male. Massive. Her brain catalogued automatically even as terror paralyzed her. Silver gray coat. Battle-scarred muzzle with 3 parallel claw marks running from eye to jaw. Ancient eyes that held a lifetime of pain. Though, not just any alpha. Recognition hit her like a second beating. The 3 scars. The way he held his left shoulder slightly lower. An old wound that never healed right. The distinctive patch of white fur at his throat. Kai Thornwood. The disgraced Alpha Prime she'd pulled from an execution pit 5 years ago. The first outcast she'd ever saved. The Alpha she'd nursed back from the edge of madness, who'd promised her in a voice raw with emotion, "I will never forget this. Never." Kai sat down. Not in a hunting crouch. Not in an aggressive stance. He sat in a perfect guard position. Body angled to protect, eyes scanning the road for threats, every muscle coiled with readiness. And behind him, one by one, 46 other alphas did the same. Veronica's breath caught. They came. They all came. Every wolf she'd ever saved. Every outcast she'd sheltered. Every broken alpha she'd told, "You're not worthless. You're not alone. Your pack now, my pack." They'd been watching. Waiting. Protecting her from the shadows even when she thought she was protecting them. Kai's eyes met hers. A direct challenge to pack law that said alphas never acknowledged omegas as equals. And in that golden gaze she saw something that made her broken heart stutter. Fierce, unwavering loyalty. The kind that said, "You saved us when no one else would. Now we save you. And heaven help anyone who tries to stop us." Before the 47 alphas reveal themselves from the shadows, I need you to join the pack. Show your loyalty by hitting that like button. Let it glow like alpha eyes in the darkness. Subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss when the next supernatural story drops under the full moon. And howl out in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from. Are you running with the wolves from Texas, prowling from the UK, or hunting from somewhere else entirely? Drop your location and claim your territory in the pack. Now, let's see what happens when those 47 alphas step into the moonlight. The first outcast she'd ever saved. The alpha she'd nursed back from the edge of madness, who'd promised her in a voice raw with emotion, "I will never forget this. Never." Kai sat down. Not in a hunting crouch. Not in an aggressive stance. He sat in a perfect guard position, body angled to protect, eyes scanning the road for threats, every muscle coiled with readiness. And behind him, one by one, 46 other alphas did the same. Veronica's breath caught. They came. They all came. Every wolf she'd ever saved. Every outcast she'd sheltered. Every broken alpha she'd told, "You're not worthless. You're not alone. Your pack now, my pack." They'd been watching. Waiting. Protecting her from the shadows even when she thought she was protecting them. Kai's eyes met hers. A direct challenge to pack law that said alphas never acknowledged omegas as equals. And in that golden gaze she saw something that made her broken heart stutter. Fierce, unwavering loyalty. The kind that said, "You saved us when no one else would. Now we save you. And heaven help anyone who tries to stop us." Before the 47 alphas reveal themselves from the shadows, I need you to join the pack. Show your loyalty by hitting that like button. Let it glow like alpha eyes in the darkness. Subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss when the next supernatural story drops under the full moon. And howl out in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from. Are you running with the wolves from Texas, prowling from the UK, or hunting from somewhere else entirely? Drop your location and claim your territory in the pack. Now, let's see what happens when those 47 alphas step into the moonlight. Veronica's survival instinct screamed at her to stay perfectly still. The alphas were circling now. She could hear the whisper of paws on frozen asphalt, the soft crunch of frost beneath massive bodies moving with coordinated precision. They were forming a perimeter. Hunting formation. Exactly what Damien would have ordered if he'd sent a death squad to finish her. Of course he did. Can't leave witnesses. Can't let an Omega live to tell what happened. Her vision blurred with tears she couldn't afford to shed. Through the haze of pain and silver poisoning she counted them. 15 on her left. 12 on her right. More behind her, she could feel their presence, their body heat creating a pocket of warmth in the frozen air. 20 more maybe. All of them massive. All of them alpha-sized. 47 total. The exact number Damien would need to make this look legitimate. A rogue pack attack. Tragic. Unavoidable. No questions asked. Her fingers dug into the asphalt, broken nails scraping uselessly. She couldn't run. Couldn't fight. Couldn't even lift her head without the world spinning into darkness. The silver in her bloodstream had reduced her to what the council always said she was. Helpless. Worthless. Prey. The Omega protocols she'd learned since childhood kicked in with mechanical precision. Don't look them in the eyes. That's a challenge, and Omegas never challenge. Don't speak, your voice doesn't matter. Don't resist, it only makes the punishment worse. Accept death quietly with dignity so at least they'll say you died well. Veronica forced her gaze down to the frozen ground. Forced her body to go limp despite every instinct screaming to fight. Forced her breathing to slow even as her heart hammered against shattered ribs. Make it quick, she prayed to gods she'd stopped believing in years ago. Please just make it quick. The footsteps stopped. The circle was complete. She could feel them watching her, 47 apex predators evaluating their prey. Deciding who would strike first. Who would get the killing blow. Silence descended like a blade. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then the lead alpha moved forward and Veronica closed her eyes, waiting for teeth to find her throat. The lead alpha's breath was hot against her face. Veronica kept her eyes locked on the ground, watching his massive paws step into her line of sight. Each one was the size of her hand. Claws scraped against asphalt with a sound like knives on stone. He was close enough now that she could smell him. Pine and earth and something wild that made her wolf instincts recognize power. Ancient power. The kind that came from surviving things that should have killed you. Just do it. Please just do it. But the killing blow didn't come. Instead the alpha sat down. Not in a crouch. Not poised to strike. He sat the way alphas did when they were settling in for a long watch. Guard position. Protective stance. His body angled between her and the road, massive shoulders squared, ears forward and alert. Veronica's breath caught. What? Against every Omega protocol, Against every survival instinct that screamed don't look, don't challenge, don't provoke, she lifted her gaze. The alpha's face was directly in her line of sight now, illuminated by moonlight. Silver-gray fur. Scarred muzzle. And there, running from his right eye down to his jaw, 3 parallel claw marks that had healed badly, leaving raised tissue that would never grow fur again. Her heart stopped. Oh, it can't be. She knew those scars. Had cleaned them herself 5 years ago in a hidden cave while he'd been half dead from silver poisoning and blood loss. Had held pressure on the wounds while he'd thrashed in fever dreams, crying out names of pack members who'd betrayed him. Had watched him wake up 3 days later and realize he was still alive, and then watched him break down when he understood someone had cared enough to save him. Kai. The name came out as a broken whisper. The alpha's ears flicked forward. His eyes, golden amber, ancient and knowing, met hers directly. A look that said, I know you. Remember. I owe you everything. Then he did something that made her chest constrict with emotion so fierce it hurt worse than her broken ribs. He bowed his head. Just slightly. Just enough. An alpha bowing to an omega. Acknowledging her. Recognizing her as equal. No, as superior. As pack leader. As the one worth protecting. Behind Kai, one by one 46 other wolves sat down in perfect synchronization. Forming a defensive circle. A living wall between Veronica and anything that might come for her. And Veronica realized with stunning clarity. These weren't Damien's death squad. These were hers. Every outcast she'd saved. Every broken alpha she'd sheltered. Every wolf the packs had thrown away. They'd been watching. Waiting. And now they'd come. Kai's head lifted toward the full moon, and Veronica knew what was coming before he made a sound. She'd heard alpha howls before. The territorial claims, the hunt calls, the challenge cries that echoed through pack lands like declarations of war. But she'd never heard what came next. Kai's howl started low, rising from deep in his chest. Not a hunt call. Not a territorial claim. This was something older. Something primal that resonated in the marrow of her bones and made every hair on her body stand on end. It was a battle cry. A declaration. A promise written in sound that carried a single unmistakable message. This one is ours. Touch her and face us all. The sound built and built, climbing impossible octaves until it felt like the air itself was vibrating. Veronica's broken ribs ached with the force of it. Her damaged eardrums rang. But she couldn't look away from Kai's silhouette against the moon. A broken alpha who'd been thrown away by his pack, now standing guard over the omega who'd refused to let him die alone. Then the others joined. Not in chaos. Not in random chorus. In perfect harmonic convergence. 46 voices layering over Kai's in a sound so massive, so overwhelming, that Veronica felt it in her teeth, her skull, her failing heart. Each alpha added their own note, their own frequency, building a wall of sound that shook frost from the pine trees and sent it falling like silver rain. The howl wasn't just loud. It was felt. It traveled through the frozen ground beneath her, through the asphalt, through the forest itself. Miles away, in the distant town where humans slept unaware, dogs began barking frantically. Car alarms triggered. Windows rattled in their frames. In the supernatural territories scattered throughout the Pacific Northwest, every alpha within 100 miles stopped what they were doing and turned toward the source. They heard the message encoded in those harmonics. Heard the number of voices, the unified purpose, the sacred declaration of protection. 47 alphas. One voice. One omega. The sound built to a crescendo that seemed to split the night itself, then held, sustained impossibly long, until Veronica's vision blurred with tears and her chest felt like it might crack open from the sheer weight of what it meant. I'm not alone. I was never alone. When the howl finally faded, the silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind had stopped. The forest held its breath, waiting to see who would answer the challenge. And in the distance, growing steadily louder, came the sound of an engine racing toward them. The headlights cut through the darkness like blades. 2 vehicles this time, Damien's black SUV and a sleek sedan with council plates. They came fast, tires screeching as they rounded the bend and slammed to a stop 30 feet from where Veronica lay. Kai's lips pulled back in a silent snarl. Around her, the circle of alphas tightened, bodies pressing closer, forming a wall of fur and muscle and barely contained violence. Damien emerged first, silver-loaded pistol already drawn. Behind him came Marcus and two other enforcers, each carrying weapons that gleamed with the distinctive sheen of pure silver bullets. Then the council representatives stepped out, Elder Matthias and Councilwoman Chin, their expressions cold and calculating. Damien froze mid-step when he saw them. Saw the 47 pairs of eyes reflecting his headlights. Saw the defensive formation that no amount of firepower could break without massive casualties. Saw Kai Thornwood, the disgraced Alpha Prime who should have been dead 5 years ago, sitting in a guard position over an Omega who should have been frozen and forgotten by now. What the hell is this? Damien's voice was low, dangerous. He raised his weapon, aiming it at the nearest Alpha. Rogue pack forming? Protecting an Omega? You're all violating council law. Stand down. Now. None of the Alphas moved. Kai's growl rumbled through the night, a sound that promised death to anyone stupid enough to take another step forward. Elder Matthias stepped forward, his face twisted with disgust. Kai Thornwood. You were exiled. Stripped of your title. You have no authority here, no right to challenge council enforcement. His gaze swept the circle. And the rest of you, outcasts, failures, wolves too broken to hold pack positions. You dare stand against us? For an Omega. Kai's response was to shift slightly, placing more of his body between Veronica and the guns. The message was clear. Yes. We dare. Damien's face flushed with rage. You want to die for her? Fine. Council witnesses present. This is an act of rebellion. Lethal force is authorized. He chambered around, the click echoing in the frozen air. Last chance. Move or we put you all down. Behind him the enforcers fanned out, creating a firing line. Silver bullets against 47 Alphas. The math was brutal, but Damien had council authority and weapons designed to kill werewolves with a single shot. The standoff stretched. Predator versus predator, law versus loyalty, power versus desperation. Then Kai did something that made Veronica's blood run cold. He stood up, stepped directly in front of her body and stared Damien down with eyes that promised. You'll have to go through me first. Damien smiled. Raised his pistol. Aimed directly at Kai's chest. So be it. Damien's pistol swung away from Kai at the last second. Aimed lower, aimed past him. Aimed directly at Veronica's heart where she lay helpless on the frozen ground. The Omega dies first, Damien snarled. Then we deal with her pets. The gunshot cracked through the night like thunder. Kai moved faster than anything that size should move. His body blurred mid-transformation, wolf becoming something between all fury and desperation and impossible speed. He launched himself into the bullet's path just as Veronica's scream died in her throat. The silver round hit him center mass with a wet, sickening thud. Kai's momentum carried him forward, crashing into the asphalt 3 feet from Veronica. His body convulsed once violently, then went horribly still. Steam rose from the entry wound, silver reacting with werewolf blood, burning from the inside out. Fatal. Instantly fatal for any werewolf hit in the heart. No. Veronica's voice tore from her throat, raw and broken. Kai, no, please. She tried to drag herself toward him. Managed 6 inches before her body betrayed her completely. The silver poisoning in her system surged in response to her panic, flooding her veins with liquid fire. Her vision grayed at the edges. Her heart stuttered, skipped a beat, stuttered again. Not like this. He can't die for me. Not him. Not. Damien chambered another round, smiling. Touching. Now let's finish. Sirens. Multiple sirens growing louder by the second. Then flashing red and blue lights exploded around the bend, and Sheriff Marcus Webb's tactical unit roared onto the scene. 3 armored vehicles, 12 officers, all armed with supernatural containment protocols. Weapons down. Hands up. Now. Webb's voice boomed through a loudspeaker. Damien spun toward the new threat, pistol still raised. Fatal mistake. 2 officers hit him with tranquilizer rounds designed for werewolves. Enough sedative to drop a grizzly. He went down hard, mid-transformation, body convulsing as the drugs fought his shift. The enforcers scattered. The council representatives raised their hands slowly, faces carefully neutral. Webb jumped from his vehicle, already barking orders. Secure the suspects. Get medical. He stopped dead when he saw the scene. 47 Alphas. 1 dying on the ground. 1 Omega barely breathing. Jesus Christ. Webb dropped to his knees beside Veronica. Stay with me. Medic. We need. Kai. Veronica's voice was barely a whisper. Her lips were turning blue. Her heart was beating too slow, too irregular. Save Kai. Please. He took the bullet meant for her. Her heart stopped. Just stopped, mid-sentence, mid-breath, mid-plea. Webb's fingers found her neck. No pulse. Get Dr. Frost on the line, he screamed. Tell her we need the underground facility now. And someone find that wolf. We've got 2 code blacks. Around them 46 alphas began to howl. The underground facility was a blur of fluorescent lights and steel tables. Webb's officers carried Veronica through corridors that smelled of antiseptic and something wild. The distinctive scent of werewolf medicine mixed with human pharmaceuticals. Dr. Elena Frost was already scrubbed in, her surgical team assembled. She was human, but she'd spent 20 years treating supernatural patients in a clinic that officially didn't exist. Her hands moved with the kind of confidence that came from saving lives that conventional medicine had given up on. Table. Now. Frost's voice cut through the chaos. How long has she been flatlined? 3 minutes, Webb panted. Maybe 4. The silver. I can see the silver. Frost ripped open Veronica's jacket, pressed a stethoscope to her chest. Nothing. Get me the chelation compound. The experimental batch. And charge the defib. We're going hybrid protocol. A nurse hesitated. Doctor, the experimental chelation hasn't been tested on. She's dead either way. Frost's eyes blazed. Either the silver kills her or we do trying to remove it. Move. The team exploded into action. IVs slammed into both arms. One pumping chelation compound that glowed faintly blue under the lights. The other forcing synthetic regeneration stimulants directly into her bloodstream. Machines beeped frantically as they monitored vitals that weren't there. Frost positioned the defibrillator paddles. Clear. Veronica's body arced off the table. The machine screamed. Still nothing. Again. Clear. Another jolt. Another flat line. Frost threw the paddles aside and started compressions. Brutal, rib-cracking pressure designed to force blood through a system that had given up. Come on, Omega. You didn't survive 47 alphas just to quit on me now. 30 compressions. 2 rescue breaths. 30 more compressions. The chelation compound was working. They could see it happening, silver literally being pulled from her tissues, turning her blood from poison black to dark red. But her heart wouldn't restart. The silver had damaged too much, stopped it too completely. Time. Frost gasped, still compressing. 7 minutes. 7 minutes without oxygen. Brain damage was inevitable now. She even survived. Frost grabbed a syringe filled with something that looked like liquid lightning. Werewolf adrenaline. Pure. Undiluted. This will either restart her heart or explode it. She didn't wait for approval. Slammed the needle directly into Veronica's heart and pushed the plunger. For 3 seconds nothing happened. Then Veronica's body convulsed violently. Every muscle seized at once. The monitors went insane. Then suddenly, miraculously showed a rhythm. Weak. Freddy. But there. We've got a pulse, the nurse screamed. Frost sagged against the table, chest heaving. Vitals. No. And someone tell me about the alpha they brought in. Because if she wakes up and he's dead, she'll wish we hadn't saved her. Outside the operating room, through reinforced glass, Sheriff Webb watched the miracle unfold. Behind him, pressed against the corridor walls, 46 alphas waited in absolute silence. Waiting to see if their Omega would survive. Waiting to see if their leader would wake. Veronica's eyes snapped open, and the first word out of her mouth was a name torn from somewhere deep and desperate. Kai. Dr. Frost moved to restrain her, but Veronica was already ripping the IVs from her arms. Blood spurted from the insertion sites, still too dark, still contaminated with traces of silver. Her broken ribs screamed in protest as she tried to sit up, but she ignored them with the kind of single-minded focus that came from absolute terror. Kai. Where's he? Where? Her voice cracked. The bullet. He took the bullet. Where is he? You need to lie down. Frost's hands were firm on her shoulders, trying to guide her back. You flatlined twice. Your heart is barely stable. If you move. Veronica shoved her away with strength that shouldn't have been possible for someone who'd been dead 7 minutes ago. She swung her legs off the table, ignoring the way the room tilted and spun. Is he alive? The silence that followed was answer enough. No. Veronica stood, wavered, caught herself on the table's edge. No. You don't understand. He can't. I have to. She took a step toward the door. Her legs buckled. Webb caught her before she hit the floor. Easy, Veronica. Easy. His voice was gentle but his grip was iron. The Alpha, Kai, he's in bad shape. Silver bullet to the chest. We haven't been able to extract it yet because we don't know where he is. Veronica's head snapped up. What do you mean you don't know where he is? He shifted after he was shot. Dragged himself into the forest before we could stop him. Webb's expression was grim. Wolves do that when they're dying. Find a den. Go to ground. We've had search teams out for an hour, but I know where he is. Veronica's voice was absolutely certain. I know exactly where he'd go. The sacred den. 2 miles north by northeast. The old ceremonial grounds his pack used before. She stopped, swayed again. I have to take you there. Now. Frost stepped between her and the door. You're in no condition to walk 2 feet, let alone 2 miles through wilderness. I can send the coordinates. You won't find it without me. Veronica met her eyes and something in that gaze made Frost's protest die. It's hidden by ancient pack magic. Only someone he trusts can approach it. If your teams get close, the wards will turn them around, make them forget why they came. She gripped Webb's arm. Sheriff. Please. He took a bullet meant for me. He's dying alone in the dark because he saved my life. I won't, I can't. Her voice broke completely. Frost and Webb exchanged a look. Every medical protocol screamed to sedate her, restrain her, keep her on that table. But they both knew what they were seeing. An Omega who would rip herself apart before she let her Alpha die alone. Frost's jaw tightened. Get her a wheelchair, morphine for the pain and portable oxygen. And someone find me every piece of silver extraction equipment we have. He turned to Veronica. If you die on me out there, I'm bringing you back just to kill you myself. Understood. Veronica nodded, already moving toward the door. Outside, 46 Alphas were waiting. When they saw her, broken, barely alive but standing, they began to move as one. The blood trail was easy to follow once they knew where to look. Dark spatters against snow and frozen earth, leading deeper into territory that made Webb's officers nervous. The air here felt different, charged with something ancient that predated human understanding of the supernatural. Veronica led them from the wheelchair they'd forced her into, one hand gripping the armrest, the other pointing the way through trees that seemed to lean in and listen. The 46 Alphas moved like shadows around them, silent guardians forming a protective convoy. There. Veronica's voice was barely a whisper. Past those 3 oaks. You'll see the entrance. The sacred den was a cave mouth half hidden by centuries of overgrowth. Inside, the darkness was absolute, until Webb's team set up portable work lights that threw harsh shadows against stone walls covered in ancient pack symbols. Kai lay in the center of the den in human form, naked and dying. The silver bullet had done catastrophic damage. His chest was a ruin of burned flesh and blood that wouldn't clot. His breathing came in shallow, rattling gasps. His eyes were closed. Jesus. Dr. Frost knelt beside him, hands already moving with professional efficiency. He's minutes away from complete system failure. I need. Her team was already unpacking equipment. Surgical tools. Extraction forceps designed for silver removal. A portable bypass machine because his heart wouldn't survive the procedure without support. This is insane. Frost's hands didn't shake as she sterilized her instruments, but her voice betrayed her fear. I'm performing open-chest surgery in a cave with battery-powered equipment. The survival rate for silver extraction this deep is 10%. I know. Veronica had somehow gotten out of the wheelchair and was crawling to Kai's side. Do it anyway. The 46 Alphas arranged themselves in a perfect circle around the den entrance, facing outward. Standing vigil. Standing guard. In the lantern light, their eyes glowed like stars. Frost made the first incision. Kai's body convulsed. Blood welled up, dark and thick. Frost's hands disappeared into his chest cavity, searching for the silver fragment that was killing him cell by cell. Veronica took his hand. His fingers were cold, lifeless, and leaned close to his ear. "You're not dying alone," she whispered, her voice breaking on every word. "You hear me, Kai Thornwood? You told me that 5 years ago when you thought I'd leave you in that execution pit. You said, 'You're not dying alone.' So neither are you. I'm right here. I'm not leaving. I'm not." "Found it." Frost's voice was tight with concentration. The forceps emerged holding a silver bullet fragment that still glowed with malevolent heat. She dropped it into a steel container where it hissed and smoked. Kai's heart stopped. The monitor flatlined. "No." Veronica's scream echoed through the cave. "No, you don't get to die. Not after everything. Not after." Frost's hands moved with brutal efficiency, performing direct cardiac massage, physically squeezing his heart through the incision, forcing it to beat. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th compression, Kai gasped. His eyes flew open, golden, wild, unfocused. His hand tightened around Veronica's with crushing strength. The monitor showed a rhythm. Weak but there. Outside the den, 46 alphas began to howl in triumph. Inside, Veronica collapsed across Kai's chest and wept. 3 months had passed since the frozen road, since silver and blood had rewritten the laws of their world. Veronica stood at the edge of the forest clearing, her hand unconsciously tracing the intricate sigil that now marked her left shoulder. 47 individual marks woven into a single constellation. The pack's protection. Their chosen mark. No longer invisible. No longer alone. Behind her, the sanctuary of shadows rose from the land Damien had tried to claim. Cabins built by alpha hands. Gardens tended by those the council had deemed broken. A medical wing where Dr. Frost now treated outcasts without fear of retribution. Sheriff Webb's patrol routes had expanded to include these borders. A human guardian for a supernatural refuge. Kai approached, his gait still careful. One hand pressed briefly to his chest where silver had nearly claimed him. The scars they both carried were reminders. Not of weakness but of the price of being seen, of refusing to disappear. "The council sent word," he said quietly, standing beside her. "They're calling it precedent. 3 more Omegas have requested sanctuary this week." Veronica watched the 47 alphas gathering in the clearing below, former rogues and exiles now forming circles around campfires, sharing stories instead of territories. No hierarchies. No submission protocols. Just wolves who had learned that true strength lived in the spaces between dominance and compassion. "Damien thought killing me would silence the problem," she murmured. "He gave us a revolution instead." Kai's hand found hers, their fingers interlacing like the marks on her shoulder. "You were never the problem, Veronica. You were always the answer." She turned to face her pack, her family, and felt the weight of invisibility finally lift. Her greatest strength had never been hiding in the shadows. It was teaching others that they deserved to step into the light. The sanctuary's gates would remain open. Always. The Omega's fight for survival is over, but the pack's journey is just beginning. Another story of supernatural revenge and redemption is waiting in the shadows, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The next video is already loaded and ready to hunt. Click it now and continue running with the pack, because what's coming will make your blood run cold and your heart race faster than a werewolf on a full moon night. Remember, the lone wolf dies but the pack survives. Don't run alone. Subscribe, stay with us, and let's hunt the next story together. See you under the next moon, pack member. Keep your fangs sharp.